What are some very creepy facts? From Atlas Obscura by Thurs and Morton. Necropants, reader's discretion advised. In Iceland, a long-ass time ago, 17th C, friends followed complex rules to obtain a dead man's skin to turn them into pants. 1. You had to get permission from the dude to use his skin after he kicked the bucket. 2. You would then wait until burial formalities concluded. 3. You would rob the shit out of your buddy's grave. 4. You would cut the waist and peel the bottom half of the body off in one perfect flay. 5. You would then steal a coin from a poor widow, preferably your bud's. 6. Place the coin in the scrotum of the necropants to attract cosmic shit, specifically more wealth in life, and leave the groin full of coins at all times. 7. Pass that shit down to your kid. Fun fact, the Museum of Icelandic Sorcery and Witchcraft has a pair on display for all of us shikos to gawk at. Edit, steal a coin. Additional, you are right, it's folklore. What is creepy is that they dedicated a museum to all of this fucking metal folklore and bothered to create a replica of a very disturbing idea. Smile, I just thought the storytelling would be fun, and lo and behold, I had some amazing comments come from it. The Nazino Affair. For those who don't want to read the fucked up details. In Stalin's Russia, 6,700 people were sent to live in a work camp on an island in a remote part of Russia. They had no supplies, shelter, or tools, and if they tried to leave the island they were shot and killed by Russian soldiers. It took less than 2 months before the people on the island, in their desperation, gave in to a cannibalistic holocaust. Over 4,000 people were killed or went missing in that time. In the end, only 300 people made it off the island in one piece. It wasn't until the late 80s that a world tribunal even found out the gruesome details of what went on there. Edit, someone pointed out the source I linked isn't the best, so here's one with better citations and links to more content on the subject. After raping his blindfolded victims, the Golden State Killer would be super duper quiet and pretend like he was gone, and right when the poor victims would start to move towards the phone or try to untie themselves, he would scare the fucking shit out of them. The men of the ship Essex, the true event that inspires the story Moby Dick, avoided islands after being shipwrecked for fear of cannibals. The islands were settled and landing there would have brought salvation to the survivors. Ironically, because of this bypass, the men ran out of food and were forced to eat each other for survival. A bubble caused by false vacuum decay could be expanding through our galaxy right now, destroying everything it touches. And we wouldn't even know about it, because it travels at the speed of light. Edit, to all the people who I've given existential dread with this comment, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking of it as scary as much as just creepy. And as others have pointed out already, it's hypothetical at this point. So try not to work about it. The origins of vampires as we know them. Basically, your body has gas build-up when you die. I'm not medically inclined enough to explain why. Basically, the gas has to escape somehow, and so it would pass through the vocal cords in the throat. This creates the low moan that makes the body sound as if it was in pain. The people back then had no idea what was happening, and random bodies would just start moaning in pain. And thus they believed that the bodies were rising from the dead. And when stabbed, the gas escaped otherwise. Thus leading to the belief that the only way to stop a vampire was to stab a dead body in the chest. This also led to a lot of strange burials, i.e. the man that was buried in a stone wall to prevent him from rising from the dead. I can't really blame them. I'd be freaked out too if a corpse suddenly started to make sounds. Creepy for some, but I find stuff like that fascinating. There's documentaries on it talking about it. I highly recommend them. Edit, words cannot describe how happy I am that so many of you provided additional facts. I'm having a blast reading your comments. I don't know much about this topic, and so it's great to have a place where more information and leads are constantly being shared. This is the documentary that I saw, but there's a ton of others out there with more, possibly better, information. If you have any recommendations yourselves, please link them in your comment. I'd love to see them. This might not be very creepy, but there are no laws against cannibalism in the USA. You might be arrested for something else, but not for cannibalism. Edit: I would like to clarify that I am in no way a practitioner of law. I don't know the specifics of what you would be arrested for. This was just a random fact floating in my brain. Edit 2: most of the USA lacks these laws. It seems Idaho had some incidents, leading to them being the only state with anti-cannibalism laws. Thank you for informing me. You all know who you are. If you stifle a sneeze, there's a chance you can damage organs in your head, including eye blood vessels, rupturing your eardrums, and possibly rupture a brain aneurysm. Which means there's a small chance stifling a sneeze can kill you. Better to be the loud ass with the sneeze that can be heard around the world than a dead loud ass cause someone told you to stifle that sneeze. In 2015, a young woman began to have headaches. They discovered that she had a brain tumor, and when the doctors removed it, they were shocked to see that it was a lump resembling skin that contained bone, teeth, and hair. But this was no parasitic twin. The mass was called a teratoma, or monstrous tumor. When the woman was an embryo, some cell tissue fell off and ended up where wasn't supposed to be, her brain. It then developed hair and teeth while the rest of her grew as normal. It's less of a fact and more of an uncomfortable truth, but it would be very easy for a determined individual to break into your place of residence and kill you at just about any time that you aren't expecting them. Even worse is that if they do it cleanly and have no relationship with you, they stand a decent chance of getting away with it. Edit: for clarity I said determined individual because most normal locks, dogs, weapons, walls, fences, cameras, lights, etc. will be enough to deter thieves or just some whack job. The point of my comment is to say that if someone genuinely wants to get you, either they will or they'll die trying, and odds are, if you aren't expecting it, the first thing is what will happen. The Colombian serial killer Pedro Alonso Lopez, who is known as the Monster of the Andes, raped and murdered over 300 girls from Ecuador, Peru, and Colombia. However, after he was caught and imprisoned for 18 years, he was put in a psychiatric hospital. There he was reviewed, declared to be sane, and was set free, in spite of his blatant avowal that he fully intends to kill again. Since he was released in 1998, nobody knows where he is or what he's doing. He is supposed to be 71 years old at present. He is known for being the most prolific killer ever. Rosemary Kennedy was JFK's sister. She suffered from oxygen deprivation at birth, and that unfortunately stunted her mental growth. She had a pretty decent childhood, but as she grew older she began to act out. Afraid that her behavior would risk his political career, her father, Joseph, agreed to have her lobotomized. Her mother, Rose, was against it and forbade him from doing it. So he did it behind her back when she went on a trip. After the operation, Rosemary's already low IQ was lowered even further, to the point she could no longer walk or communicate. Her family had her locked up in an institution and basically disowned her. They never visited and never publicly acknowledged her anymore. Rosemary died at the age of 86. Her mother never forgave her husband for what he had done. I bring this up at parties all the time. When climbing Mount Everest, there's a point nicknamed Rainbow Valley or Rainbow Ridge because it's absolutely littered with the bodies of people who attempted to make the climb. The combination of the extremely cold temperature and the bright snowsuits means that they've become an ever-rotting but colorful landmark. Bonus round: many of them died when other people were around. 2 climbers sat with Sleeping Beauty as she succumbed to hypothermia to comfort her, until they had to leave to save themselves. A climber died next to Green Boots while the trail was busy with other climbers, as they either assumed he was resting and/or was perhaps already dead. If you get hurt or otherwise start to die up there, others can't rescue you without likely getting themselves killed. Retrieving a corpse requires 6 to 8 Sherpas, assuming it hasn't become part of the mountain. Extra bonus, the climber who died because she spent 21 minutes celebrating reaching the top of the mountain. I find that the most disturbing facts are space-related, and also it's crazy to me how little we truly know of the mysterious universe. We like to think we are smart because we are the most intelligent thing we know of. But when you look at the galaxies roaming the universe on a near-infinite scale, the possibilities are legitimately endless. I heard that the size of the observable universe compared to the expansion of the Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago, that the size of the actual universe could be as much as 900 times bigger, and light just hasn't traveled far enough to reach us. Could you imagine the size of that? It's inconceivable. I hope that when we die, we get to go to a dimension where we just know everything about everything and all mysterious things are revealed. And when we have enough time exploring everything again, we can choose to be born as life again on some other planet and face our own challenges from a different perspective. 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually abused before they turn 18 years old, usually by someone they know and trust. I remember reading that on a poster in my middle school hallway, thinking it wouldn't be me, because my family and friends were all kind people. Turns out Grandpa didn't love me the way I thought he did. Any story about cosmonauts during the space race? Russia only wanted to get to space first. It didn't matter how many failed missions were between them and succeeding. It was all trial and error. If somebody didn't survive an attempt, they were wiped from history, any documentation destroyed, including being edited out of photographs. One story that I remember is the first man to free walk in space, Alexei Leonov. They didn't account for the pressure difference when making his suit, so when he stepped out, the suit expanding to the point of nearly falling apart and he couldn't fit back in through the door. He had to release the oxygen from the suit to deflate it enough to get back inside. Another one is the Judica Cordiglia brothers. This one may be considered more conspiracy theory, but as far as I know the recordings are real. They were radio operators who picked up signals of very distressed sounding Russian voices and an SOS signal drifting away from Earth. When translated, the voices were calling for help, saying history would forget them, and saying it is getting very hot. Edit, apparently the recordings were not real, so disregard that section. Definitely creepy, not so much fact.
Powerful happiness that I just can't seem to get.